Who is Rambo Hustle? And why should you care what I have to say about anything?
Going down, it's your boy Juicy J. Our hustle is our hustle, man. That's what you're watching right now. It's going down.
Poppin' Kendrick Lamar, my dude Rambo.
Our hustle.
Yeah.
Our hustle is our hustle. Absol. Our hustle is our hustle. Our hustle is our hustle.
Now, look, when we get into other topics that are maybe theoretic about life, maybe movies and things like that, I'll be the first to tell you that is not my expertise. Unless I'm talking to you about filming, about photography, about directing, about creative and artistic endeavors, which I'm pretty prolific at, and I have a good sense. I've done almost anything that you can think of under the sun in regards to media. Then I can say, like, I can give you some good feedback on like what is good and what isn't. Now, music, obviously, I have tons of experience in that field where I've not only produced, but I've written records, I've directed music videos. I've done a lot of graphic design work for TDE. That's actually where I started. So I'll take you back all the way from the beginning. When I was in college, I actually decided to pursue music. I've always been into music, right? When I was in college, I actually used to make mixtapes for people. Like, I wasn't a DJ. I did DJ for a little bit, but it wasn't like turntables or anything. It was just like playing new music. I was always a big fan of new music. Whatever came out, I could tell you records that were going to be hot records months before they became hot records. Like, the second a record comes out, I could listen to a record and I could say, hey, this is gonna be big. And the same thing with artists. You know, I could tell you this artist is gonna be huge, or this artist is gonna make a huge impact. And sure enough, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months later, that artist would then for sure be making a huge impact. Now, that happened with Plies, that happened with Yellow Wolf, that happened with MGK, and ultimately it happened with Kendrick. When I would come back home from LA, I would be the first person selling mixtapes and telling people about K-Dot, this young kid from Compton that was doing all these things and having meetings with Jay-Z and, you know, creating all this really like incredible music. And, you know, part of it surely was, you know, the fact that that's just who I was working with, right? That's just who I happened to land with when I first got to LA. But again, I don't want to jump too far ahead. So when I was in college, in the midst, on my way out, as I was finishing up school, I had watched the DVD Jay-Z's Fade to Black, which was essentially a documentary of the making of the Black Album, which was supposed to be his quote-unquote retirement album. And in that DVD, it was, you know, they had it was one big concert that was in I believe Madison Square Garden, if I remember correctly. But the concert in itself was great. But it wasn't really what grabbed my attention. It wasn't the thing that really catapulted me to say, you know what, that is what I want to do. It was actually the in-studio scenes, the in-studio behind the scenes, the things where you could actually see Jay-Z with Pharrell, Jay-Z with Timberland, Jay-Z with Just Blaze, and really him in the process being in the studio and going through his ideas and brainstorming the concepts of what he wanted to create and taking these very abstract ideas and really manifesting actual records that eventually became music videos, that eventually became an album. And to me, one of the greatest albums of all time in regards of, you know, like just sound, you know, forget that it was his retirement album, forget anything else. Just the music in itself was incredible. And so for me, the Black Album still to this day is not just timeless, but it's a classic by all means. And it really holds the test of time where you can really listen to that album and understand why Jay-Z was so impactful during the time. Now, you can go back and say that maybe if Biggie hadn't been killed and if Tupac hadn't been killed, you know, there can always be what ifs, but I am not a person that deals with what ifs. I am a person that deals with what happened, the facts, the historical, actual, factual moments and happenings of what happened is what I like to focus on, because a what if is nothing more than a comic book. You're just trying to regenerate history and generate this idea of what if this happened, what if that happened. But the truth is, it didn't happen. The way it happened is how we should be discussing things. Now, when you're talking to fans and things like that, and we're just having like fun banter, you know, it's fun to say what if. But when it comes to real debate and real factual conversations, you really want to focus on the history of how things happen, no matter how you feel. Whether I'm a fan of this person, and you know, and they took a L or whatever the case is, it's important that you're able to face that head on, because that's the only way that we're able to move forward. I mean, think about the Black album was something that came out after the beef with Nas. So I was inspired and motivated to pursue music solely based off something that happened after what they said, quote unquote, was a Jay-Z defeat. Now, again, like I said, it wasn't so much the concert stuff. It was really more the in-studio stuff. And then I literally that same week, I had my guy Dash, who was, I was like one of the few producers that I knew at the time. And I knew he had years of experience making beats and rapping and producing and mixing and mastering. And I reached out to him immediately. He came up to see me at my college town about 2 days later, and I had FL Studio immediately, and I immediately dove into making beats, into doing production, and really disconnected completely from the party life, which that was a huge part of my life, because honestly, for a long time, that's all I was investing myself into. I had no direction in life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what my career was going to be. I had no passions outside of just hanging out, talking to girls, you know, partying with my friends and bullshit. Party and bullshit, man. And so, you know, the Fade to Black album was what inspired me to say, you know what, I could do that. I could go into a studio. I could create an idea. I could manifest it. I can pull artists and say, this is what needs to go here. This is what needs to happen. And so I really took it upon myself to pursue that immediately. Started making beats, started making production. And that's really where everything kind of began for me. About a year and a half later, I ended up getting arrested for a warrant that I had from 3 years earlier. That was like my freshman year in college. And you know, if anyone's been arrested, you know that is a terrible experience, and it literally makes you rethink your entire life. And while I was in jail, I decided that, you know what, like, I don't know what's going to happen when I leave here, but I know that I'm going to leave here and I'm going to pursue this thing at 100 miles an hour, because I know that's what I want to do. And the only thing that pursuing the party and bullshit has gotten me is literally in jail. And so as soon as I got out of jail, I stepped out and I bounced. You know, they wanted me to come back to court in 6 months. And I said, in 6 months, I have no intention of being in the state. I have no intention of being anywhere near this city or this establishment or these people. I want to be pursuing my dreams. And I've decided that my dreams are to pursue a career in music. Now, I wasn't sure what in music. I wasn't sure in what capacity. I didn't know exactly what direction or what I would do, but I knew that the production thing was the first thing that I had access to. I had the program, I could make the beats, and then go from there. You know, as far as being a rapper or writing songs or any of that stuff, that was something that wasn't even in the cards for me. It was not something I ever wanted to do. I even remember back in high school, people would rap and freestyle in the hallways, and personally, I never gravitated towards the concept of freestyling, at least for myself. You know, I could always appreciate it, but to me, I always loved the idea of records, of creating an idea and developing that idea in a way that would allow that idea to live forever. Where I felt like freestyling was more like I could come up with something really clever and smart and a good nice punchline, but then if I don't write it down, I might just forget it and it's lost in that moment in time. And so for me, records were always a lot more carried a lot more weight in regards of being a creative and creative pursuit of music or anything in that field. And so, when I got out of jail, I literally booked my ticket that same exact day, and I was in LA. Maybe a week later. Now, maybe a month prior to that, I had been to LA for a all white party for a magazine that I was working for at the time, doing graphic design, doing all kinds of little things that I just so happened to like have a detail eye for. I could create designs and flyers and make things look cool. And so when I got to LA, that was literally what I was doing. When I got there, I believe it was August 16th of 2006, I believe it was. And so when I got to LA, I was dealing with I was living with a guy named Bias. He was a rapper that had some success and was pursuing his music dream as well. And he was part of what we were doing with the magazine as well. Now, in that span, that same first weekend, the magazine got an invitation to go to to his house, to a pool party because we had just interviewed DJ Ski. If you guys don't know DJ Ski, he was the game's DJ for a long time. He was a big driving force behind the game's GU Not series and basically a huge force behind what the marketing looked like for the game during that time. And of course, like having him as the face of your music and being able to get you indoors and your music indoors where maybe, he wasn't really had the buzz or the momentum or the popularity to get himself was a great help also. Now, so I get there on Friday and that Sunday, we go to this pool party. Now at this pool party, I'm just hanging, and I'm the kind of guy that is just very confident and nonchalant at the same time. I'm not boastful. I'm not trying to do the most, but here I am at the game's house. It's my third day in LA. So I got people hitting my line like, oh, how's LA going? Da da da. And I'm like, man, I'm a game's house. I'm playing pool with Game and Too Short. Now in the midst of all this, there's a bunch of girls, but again, I've never been very googly eyed about fame or girls or celebrities. Honestly, if you go to my Instagram page, you'll see a post with about 10 different rappers, SZA and a couple of Janae and a couple other people. And that's about it. Those are literally all the photos I have from like a 10, 15-year career in the music business from me doing this shit because I just was never big on, oh man, take a picture with me. And, honestly, thinking back on it now, I wish I would have done a little bit more of that. But ultimately, it just wasn't in my personality. And I always kind of felt like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I was stealing those moments for myself, but I felt it was kind of cheeseballish. So I just never did it. So that post is pretty much all the photos I have from tons of interviews and years of work in the industry. With that being said, that same day, that Sunday, I met a guy by the name of Punch. Now, Punch worked for Top Dog Entertainment, and Top Dog Entertainment had a few young artists that they were working with that were there at the party. Now, Game is still really thriving in his buzz, and obviously he was at the height of his career at that moment. But these other guys that they had on board, J Rock and K Dot, nobody knew who they were. K Dot was 17 years old. Matter of fact, the first thing I ever said to Kendrick was, "What do you do?" And that is insanity. I mean, if just to think about that concept. To this day, it just sounds insane. Like asking Kendrick Lamar, what do you do? But again, he's a 17-year-old kid. He's probably just as excited to be in this scenario as I am. Although I think at the time him and J-Rock were opening up for Game because J-Rock had a really big record at the time called Lift Me Up that they were pushing. And Kendrick was still just like developing his first actual mixtape. And so this is very, very early on in the career of these two, to me, legendary artists already as is. And again, I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and I know the beef has caused a lot of the, especially fan bases, to kind of split out. And so, anybody that was kind of a fan of Kendrick, but really a fan of Drake, just bailed on the Kendrick fandom and went totally into the Drake side. And so now there's this huge divide on where you stand. And without getting too deep into that space, I will say that we should do a better job of being honest and candidly honest about the fact that these are all amazing artists. Now, with me and the Drake thing, it's more of a personal thing because Kendrick is my guy. So, when I'm defending him online, it's really more of a loyalty thing and it's more of a personal vendetta because if he's got beef with you, I got beef with you, and that's how I roll. And for any of you guys that are on the page, whether you agree with me or not, but you're still here, I appreciate you. But if we meet in person and you're my guy, like you're my homie, that's how I would defend you in regardless. And I'm not gonna be cool with somebody that you're enemies with. And that's just and again, that's not a topic that I would dive into real heavily with random people online. And you guys know how I get down, and that's one of the things that it's hard for me to express because what am I going to do? Tell every single person that I engage with online this story about how I'm cool with these people. And then I got to prove it to you. And then you're going to say I'm lying. And then I'm going to make you look stupid. And so I just, I just stand my ground. And for me, it's really a moral value thing. Like I'm loyal to my people and I hold them down regardless. And if you got issues with them, you got issues with me. So, so with that being said, I think we're getting to a point where now you guys have to understand a little bit more where I'm coming from when I'm having these debates with you about this thing and why I go so hard. Now, there is a point though, where before we get too far out of the just know that I did work for TDE for about 5-6 years, Kid Ink, Hot New Hip Hop. There's all these people that I did work with. So when we talk about why should you give a shit about what I have to say, you don't. Despite whatever I've done, despite the photos and the designs and the music, and even if you like or don't like my own personal music, which I eventually went into, you don't have to like my takes. You don't have to respect my takes, but just understand that where a lot of these people voicing their opinions online are just talking out of their ass, out of their basements, out of their garages, and have zero experience in the actual game. When you come to the Hip Hop Report, when you come to the Rambo Hustle podcast, you're talking to someone that isn't talking solely based on how they emotionally feel or what their taste buds are. There's somebody that is talking to you from a real world experience. Somebody who was there in Long Beach when Kendrick and J-Rock got into it with the police and they fucking maced everybody. Somebody that was there in so many different scenarios that are real life scenarios with these artists that we talk about. You know what I mean? So it's not a situation where Rambo Hustle is just a guy that talks crazy because he's fucking a 40-year-old groupie. Like, nah, fam, these are my people. I defend my people. And I can still sit here and tell you, hey, man, like, regardless of how I feel about Drake on the personal side, when you get to the music, and regardless of how I feel about the writing or lack thereof, or whatever the case is, the fact is he's still the one behind the mic, singing the songs, rapping the songs, and creating the persona. So even the concept of him being an actor and acting like an American rapper, which is pretty much the facts. The fact is he is still the one doing that. This is not AI. He's not a computer generated hologram. Like Drake is carrying the load of what being that superstar is. And, we'll get deeper into that conversation, I'm sure, at some point. And I think we already have, honestly, in the past few months. But the important thing is that you guys know that I can still sit here and, I still gave you guys my favorite records from the project, which was Make Them Cry, Make Them Remember, Shebang. Janice, I skipped over because honestly, I think he loses me at the tough guy talk. And for example, I think Too Hard for Radio is a perfect example of one. The title is a fraud, is a facade. He's never been too hard for radio. He's literally a radio sweetheart. But the first half of that record, he's fun, he's having a good time, he's likable, he's just enjoying life. And when it switches, it's when he loses me. And I think that is the difference for me in between what I'm willing to consume from Drake and what I'm not willing to consume from Drake. And it's all about tonality, and it's all about recognizing who you truly are and being true to that at its core. And, that's not to say, oh, he doesn't even use a Canadian accent ever in a single song that he's ever put out in the history of his catalog, even though that's also facts. But I understand that at the end of the day, this is a business, and he's trying to appeal to his audience, which is predominantly a worldwide and or American audience. Because if you don't sell here, you won't sell anywhere else. And that's a fact. And so with that being said, we get into the idea of why. Why, where everyone else is so even keel and they'll double back and they're trying to be polite. I'll explain it to you. And this is an important factor that I think it's important for us to tackle today. And that is that I don't care about the industry. I don't care about burning a bridge. And I don't care about any radio personality, any label, any artist. I'm one of the few people on these platforms that is going to tell you exactly how they feel without any censorship, because I am not pursuing. I don't even care about being in the industry at all. The only reason I started doing the Hip Hop Report and speaking to you guys as candidly as I do, whether that's attacking people that came at me first or having a cordial conversation, whether we agree or not, with just about everybody that posts on my posts or comments. Remember that. If you come at me sideways, I'm going to turn you to the other side. If you come at me with respect, then we can build. And that's build on any capacity. Whether you need advice, whether you need a graphic design, whether you need a song written, whatever it is you need, as long as you respect me, I'll respect you enough to hear you out and maybe build something in the future. And I promise you that by all means, because again, I am not here pursuing industry opportunities. I don't care who I insult because it's irrelevant to me. I don't care. It is the last thing on my mind is being in the industry or being, getting a deal or getting platformed by such and such. I don't care about none of that. So where people that are in the industry might go, oh, that dude just burns bridges. Yeah. If the bridge burns, then it burns. I don't care. And I don't need anybody to validate my opinion. And I most definitely don't need anybody to align with my opinion. My opinion is my opinion. If you are sensitive or you feel butthurt about my opinion, then keep it moving. Shoo, as the song says, it's irrelevant to me. There's a lot of people in this industry that know me that don't rock with me because they think I'm too abrasive, that I'm too disrespectful, that I'm too honest, that I'm gonna be. I put their connections and their network at risk because they still need those connections. They still value those connections. I do not. I think The industry is completely sideways, specifically media. I think as somebody who started doing interviews, great interviews, timeless interviews that you can still go back and listen to and watch now. And it's not about trending topics. It's not about gossip. It's not about bullshit. I'm not pursuing a viral moment. I'm having real conversations with artists about their art, their music, and what got them to that point in their life. And to me, that is where we are different. I don't care about virality. Every video that I put out that does 200,000, a million views, whatever the case is, are organic videos that I made because I wanted to make them in that moment. They weren't, even right now, I have no script. I'm not sitting here reading off a script or I didn't plan what I was going to say. Now, I have a set of topics that we're going to talk about and tackle, but outside of that, no. We're going to have real conversations, and the way it's going to work is whatever we post throughout the week is what I will be talking about on Monday. And then from there, whichever one of you guys comments on something and gives me feedback and we have a back and forth, or you give me your take on a song or album or whatever I post on the page, we will discuss that. And so it is up to you how I address you. So, as we said before, if you address me with respect, you will get respect. If you address me with disrespect, I will match that tenfold. And so, with that being said, I think it's important to know that we are here to build a community. I'm not here to shit on you or disrespect you or anything like that. So, it's fine. If you want to say you don't like something or you disagree with something I'm saying, just fix yourself to speak right. Because at the end of the day, I'm not here to be disrespected and I'm not here to disrespect you. I'm here to build a community that can have conversations about multiple things. Because not only is it deeper than rap, but it's just about so much more than that.
Subscribe to the channel. Woo! Subscribe to the channel. Woo! If you want the latest and greatest, do it for the game. Subscribe to the channel. Woo! Subscribe to the channel. Woo! If you want the latest and greatest, do it for the game. Music breaks, these are the breaks. Music breaks, these are the breaks. Music breaks, these are the breaks.